It's Spoilerin time. Welcome, everyone. If you watch Cordkillers, well, you're following the path we go, which is to figure out how to watch things these days in this crazy mixed up streaming world, and then watch them and talk about them right here. And if you are new and you're just kind of finding us out in Spoilerin time, check out Cordkillers because it'll help you figure out where to watch all this stuff. This week, we are going to talk about Miami Vice, Season 3, Episode 20, with several guest stars, including Melanie Griffiths and George Takei, The White Lotus, Season 2, Episode 3, and 2521, Season 1, Episode 2. I'm Tom Merritt. He's Brian Brushwood.
Oh, Tom, I understand in this crazy mixed-up world, the opinions of two podcasters don't amount to a hill of beans, but we're about to give them.
This is the beginning of a beautiful friendship.
Actually, it really was. We pretty much, some people like get married after their first date. I believe the second time we ever met, you and I recorded Scam School. That one night.
No, I think you're right. I think I had been to a shoot before and met you. And then, the second time I was on the show. Yeah, no, that tracks.
That's how it goes.
Let's get into 2521, Season 1, Episode 2. This is the great experiment in which I picked a Korean drama to introduce y'all to. And it is week by week if you want to keep watching. The deck is stacked against me. It's foreign language. It's long. It's not fantasy or sci-fi. So maybe I did myself dirty, but how are we feeling, Brian, after episode 2?
Tom, I'm not going to lie. I think I should not have started the show watching the dubbed version. I think that all things being equal, the dubs are serviceable on Netflix, but I think I should have done the subs version. And my plan was today to watch the entire episode in subs so I could get the full experience and see better acting.
Mm-hmm.
Instead, I ran short on time. And for the first time ever, I turned on Netflix's 1.5x speed. And it was great. What felt like long, laborious dubbing instead sounded totally like a conversation. As a matter of fact,
you did the English dub, not the sub,
correct,
but at 1.5 speed.
Correct. And as a result, the dub sounded great and the story was super easy to follow. And as happens with like an audiobook or some podcasts or whatever, you very quickly forget that anything is sped up. And I really was more engaged with for the entire length, although I will admit, oh boy, did it look like all of the girls were running very fast during their drills. It was only when they went full Keystone Cops that I realized, oh, that's right. I'm watching at 1.5 speed.
Why are they doing killers so fast? That's ridiculous.
But having said all that, I actually think it landed for me better. I will, third week, hopefully watch with subtitles, or I may just stick to 1.5x because I'm going to guess, Tom, that what you really want is for the story that lives in your mind to also live in my mind. And if it takes it at 1.5 speed to do it, then you'll settle for that.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Because my fear on this episode is this is one of the slowest episodes of the season. It may not be the slowest, but it is certainly
episode 3 or 2.
This episode 2. This is we threw you the scenarios and all the characters. Now let's roll back and do character development. Let's really get into the relationship between these two girls. You know, let's eke out a little bit of backstory about the bankruptcy of the family. And so it doesn't move as much. And I could see that if you don't know where it's going, you might start to think, I don't know if this is for me. What did you think of this story, though?
Oh, it's great. It's good fractal storytelling. I'm a big fan of starting with something simple, and then the moment you give it a bit more attention, it splits into 2 parts, and it gets more complicated and more complicated and more complicated. I don't think they entirely cleared up what the relationship between college guy, I should really learn everyone's name, and world champion fencer is. But I like the introduction of cool popular guy at the school. I liked, I don't know what phrase to use for somebody who is sort of awesomely deadpan and factual, his upstairs downstairs neighbor or whichever.
Oh, the daughter of his landlord, you mean?
Yes, yes.
Yeah,
Her flat deadpan delivery was great. Whip smart, rapid fire dialogue. Boy, they just go really fast. But that's a joke. But I liked the fact that, again, we started off with a cartoon version of the awesome fencing teacher, and instead we got an engaged actual human who knows how to teach lessons that will resonate. It was great. I don't know how much I bought into. I was defeated once when I was 8 years old, and definitely remember it now that I'm 17. But for
well, the part of what makes that somewhat palatable to me is that Hito does not remember at all.
right,
She's like, she has no memory of Koirim. She doesn't talk about like, I love Koirim, the fencing star, and guess what? I actually she doesn't remember that was her in any way. And
right.
so I could see that maybe the trauma of that, it's a bit of a stretch, don't get me wrong, but the trauma of that could have fixed it in your mind, and like, I will never forget that person. And then when that person shows up in your life and they've been a motivating part of your psyche for so long that you're like, oh God, yeah.
Well, and much less, now there's the complicated thing. It's like, oh, did you not know you've been or I guess they haven't even talked to each other about it yet. But meanwhile, we found out that this is the motivating arch nemesis, and yet also is the girl that was kind enough to toss her an umbrella in the previous episode. I actually really dug the value of the lesson that the fencing teacher taught, which is, hey, that's why you won, is because you came out of nowhere and nobody could predict your moves. You got to know your opponent. I thought all that was good stuff. I liked getting a little bit more peeling back of the curtain as to how our engineering student love interest came to his fall from grace. And of course, it was very honorable. I wonder how much of Korean culture I'm not already familiar. Well, the answer is a lot that I'm not already familiar with, as to the whole, the best way for you to serve your country is for you to go home and take care of your family. That doesn't seem like something we would say in America. And I wouldn't believe it if I saw a military movie where a sergeant said that and kicked them out of the army to go home and take care of his family.
I think family hardship can be an exemption
yes.
to service. So that's the only part I know for sure.
And
whether
I would have
it would
to
go
assume,
down like that or not. I have no idea.
Because they do have mandatory service, so I have to imagine that they're maybe a little more forgiving about letting you out.
Oh, there is one aspect that maybe helps or maybe doesn't. I don't know, but you have a window of time to serve your mandatory service. You can choose when to go in. You have to go in for your term, and the term is different depending on what branch of the service you go in, but you can sort of pick it. So the idea that he was like, oh, I'm going to drop out of college and go to the military to just get me away from all the creditors and everything seems plausible, that he would have been like, yep, this is the time I'm going to enlist. And then the hardship pulls him back out of that. I guess that's possible.
Yeah, and before I turn it over to Bryce, just to clear things up in the chat, Paulus points out that like Radar on MASH got sent home for family hardship. I'm sure that was culturally more common during, ironically, the Korean War.
The Korean War.
But I know that culturally right now, the viewing populace in America's relationship with military service is not one where that scene wouldn't look a bit.
But it's not mandatory military service.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
Yeah. No, it makes a difference.
It was weird because that scene kind of comes and goes really quickly. Which I kind of wish the rest of the episode did. I'm very glad to hear you say, Tom, that it is one of the slowest episodes, because I do remember another musical montage. We're playing around in the water.
Oh, because we see, yeah. You did. Oh, that's too bad. That's one where I know it's really cheesy, but I kind of love the, she's letting Eugene have like a childlike moment when he's feeling very adult and he's still very young. And so I kind of love that scene. I can see what you're saying. It may have gone a beat or two too long.
I think it's only because we're watching Miami Vice, and I notice it a lot on Miami Vice when they have musical moments. And I thought,
Somebody bought the full license to the song.
We gotta fill 75 minutes today.
Yeah.
When they do the flashback to his band, that's one where I'm like, oh, okay, I really don't need to see the whole song, but it's all good.
Yeah.
That is the song. You may or may not have noticed that the opening song changed.
Oh yeah, Starlight.
And it's the reason they do that is it's the song that Yijin plays in his band when they do the flashback scene.
Tom, I know you may not believe this, but I did notice.
Oh, good. I really like the other song, and they go back to that song, so I prefer that. Another thing that may or may not make a difference here too for people watching is these aired originally on the weekend back to back. I say Saturday and Sunday because that's when we got them. I think they might have technically been Friday, Saturday, but they were weekend airings. So this episode 2 that we watched was the second of the weekend airings. And that may help make sense of some of the pacing where you're like, give them a lot at the beginning to get them interested. Then they watch the second episode the next day. And then you want to leave them with something at the end so they'll want to come back next week.
So episode 1, I experienced by corralling all my kids and sitting down and watching. And I wasn't able to make that happen this time. So I watched episode 2 again with dubs, but sped up a little bit. Bryce, how did you experience the first 2?
Last week's episode I watched with the Korean audio and the English subtitles, and then today this week I watched it with the English dub to try and see what it was like if I was maybe had it on in the background. The English dub is serviceable. I think it is good enough. If you don't like reading, I think it will be fine. But the original audio is very good.
What you want to try this 1.5x thing?
No, I'm like a 1x purist. Please don't speed my stuff up. I don't need to go any faster than this.
I'll tell you what, by watching it at 1.5 speed, it definitely bumped up where I was not the least bit tempted to pull out my phone, play a little Marvel Snap or what have you. I was able to enjoy the full thing all the way dialed in.
And I can tell I was definitely more engaged with that first episode because I had to be reading it, because I had to be paying a little more attention. So I'll probably go back to doing that, especially if this is one of the slowest episodes of the season.
It is one of the slowest episodes. I don't remember them all, so I can't remember exactly what happens next. Sure. But what's heartening to me as a fan of this show is that you are picking up on the things that I love about it. When you're like, oh, okay, so the coach isn't engaged. Oh, wait, no, she is. And she actually gives the shoes back. Oh, okay, that was a gambit. The coach is, Koyerim lost. She's going to get dressed down. No, the coach gives her like actual good advice of like, listen, you learned something today. It's not important that she beat you. What's important is how she beat you. And that's how you learn something. And same goes for you, Naido. You need to, understand that you beat her because of this. And that's not always going to work. And yet you beat her. She's real good. Like, don't discount your own achievement here. There were fewer of those kinds of moments in this episode, and those are the things where I think this story shines, is when they bring you to a real human moment and then surprise me anyway by being insightful and having the characters act the way actual humans would act, or give very good advice or something like that. And so there are more of those moments coming.
Well, and one of my favorite moments is when characters say the exact thing I'm thinking at the exact moment I'm thinking it. And that happened when I was like, kind of weird to dress her down in front of an audience. I know it's a TV show, and she's like, why are you doing this in front of an audience? It's like, because this is what sports is, and you have to celebrate and get angry in front of people.
Yeah. No, it's good. So you're in for another episode, sounds like.
100%. Although it may be 1.5x although I realize when they actually start playing fencing, it's going to look like the old Errol Flynn Robin Hoods that are all sped up.
Silent movies, yeah. Right, because you did get the first bout. It's a practice bout, but that's true. There's more of that to come as well, because you're going to get actual competitions and such. All right, that is 25-21. Any other comments on it?
No, definitely in. I'm excited to know it ramps up.
2521, season 1, episode 2. Let's talk about the White Lotus, season 2, episode 3. We split up the power couples. Aubrey Plaza and Daphne head off to make allusions to classic Italian films, while Ethan and bro guy
Cameron.
stick around and get drunk and hire some prostitutes.
Yeah. So Aubrey Plaza is a very talented actor, and I enjoyed very, very much the subtlety with which I saw. You know how, like, one of my favorite things is when you see one actor portray another actor through the lens of the character that they're doing or whatever. In this case, we're seeing Aubrey establish her character and then have to, tell her significant other that, well, I'm going to be good. It's going to be great. And by the way, anybody who's been married for a hot minute will recognize that moment where one partner is interested in some intimate time together, but like one phrase lands wrong and you realize it's not going to happen. That was an amazing opening that very much captured that dynamic.
Speaking of capturing human moments, yeah. Absolutely. We also got a little vignette, I would call it, on Valentina, who runs the hotel, seeing a little bit of her life and attitude on the way to work and getting that sort of awkward compliment from her coworker. And then, of course, the sort of intertwined story of the DeGrasso family and Albie and Tanya's assistant, Portia, because now we see the very end of Greg saying, but I have to leave, and Tanya being upset. And then Tanya's just sort of trying to pull Portia away from the DeGrassos, who this episode's filled with movie allusions because they literally go to the house where they shot The Godfather and talk about The Godfather.
And wasn't the everybody staring at the girls scene a reference to something?
Yes, I read. I didn't know this. I read it today, but there is a Monica Vitti starred in a movie called L'Avventura that has that scene, and apparently they were shooting in that area, and the cinematographer said we should just recreate that scene with Harper instead of Monica Vitti's character from L'Avventura. So they did. I don't know how that works if you have to do it the next day after you wrangle the extras, but it's beat for beat from L'Avventura. And don't forget, Monica Vitti is who Tanya said she wanted to be when Greg asked her about her perfect day. She's like, I want to be like Monica Vitti in a movie and sit on a Vespa and have men light my cigarettes. So that all kind of tied together.
Yeah, that scene a little bit pushed the edges of breaking the spell of excellent storytelling that they've been doing, and instead made it a little bit turning the camera on itself. Before
I knew the illusion, I took it as showing how Harper's feeling, not that was literally what was happening. Yeah.
And that was before they took the edibles, right?
Correct.
Because a part of me thinking back of this was like, oh, maybe this was like after the edibles and it's Harper kind of getting into her feel. But I guess this is all internal before that moment. But it was very tense. I mean, Harper and Ethan are in a lot of danger dealing with this couple, it seems like.
Well, especially they first of all, this is the first thing that shatters any illusions that we had that maybe this is a healthy, wholesome couple, that that Harper is just misinterpreting things as advances. That's clearly not the case. They spell out with neon lights. Oh, I don't know. My husband's great, but his two partners are Bernie Madoff predators. But my husband's great. Yeah. Has he ever cheated on you? Just once, that I know about. Yeah. Anyway, I'm not a victim, I promise. So like, spoken like okay.
I don't know if you guys took it this way. I have a theory that Cameron and Daphne have a wonderful relationship with each other amongst themselves, that they perfectly understand each other, and that the little games that they play aren't the way that Ethan and Harper are like actually at each other, that they're both like, yeah, that's the rules of the game. No hard feelings, right? I get to cheat. You get to not be a victim. And that's what I have a big red circle around is, what does that mean? Does that mean Cameron can do whatever he wants, but whoever he does it with dies?
Oh, geez, Louise. Wow. I had
Is
unresolved
Daphne the
thoughts.
killer?
Hmm.
Oh, like I get to play like a puppy. I get to play with my playthings before you take care of them.
And Cameron knows like there won't be any consequences because Daphne will take care of this and it will be as if it never happened.
Wow.
That's
That's dark.
Very premeditated, Tom. I mean, I'm not going to rule it out, but that's very premeditated.
We just to circle back on other plot points, loved the emergency meeting with the psychic moment. Loved because specifically Tanya, who is portrayed as very flighty. Also, I'm convinced, it's more clear than ever that Greg definitely just has a thing, and it was probably a loved one that he loves on the phone or whatever. And I believe really will be back in 2 days, or at least that's what I felt prodded towards. But Tanya, like immediately calling BS, like she knows exactly what she needs. She needs a comfort, and she knows that psychics all give comfort. And so instead she gets
a real one,
a real psychic
a
reading.
spooky psychic,
And
not a
she's like,
nice one.
You're doing it wrong. Get out. And I don't know. That was a cool moment of self-actualization that I enjoyed for Tanya.
Yeah, it's like it's like seeing a movie. We know it's not real. We know it was filmed. It's like watching the White Lotus. We know this didn't actually happen, but we're happy to fool ourselves and allow ourselves to enjoy the story. Tanya's the same way. She's like, no, I know this isn't real. I'm just happy to fool myself that it could be real so that I feel better about myself. And if you're going to tell me that things are bad, then that doesn't work for me. This medicine is no good. Throw it out.
So we have a bit of an up and down with our dating ladies. Where they get dropped. We see
Lucia and
Mia.
Who's the other?
Mia.
Yeah.
Props, I guess, to the husband admitting that he's got a problem with sexual addiction and making an attempt to put his libido on ice. My guess is something will happen the very next day and he'll be back.
Going cold turkey doesn't usually work for addicts. So,
yep.
Yeah.
That's what I'm assuming. And then we end up with them on the hunt for somebody else, another whale, and they end up with, forgive me, what was his name again?
Cameron and Ethan. They end up hooking up with the boys, and then they end up going back to, it looks like Ethan in Harper's room.
Yep.
Cameron has...
Well, right, because they're adjoining.
Right.
So it sounded like Cameron and the girls were in Cameron's room and made him open the adjoining room.
Oh,
so that
Ethan really tried, he tried to do the right thing. They banged on the door, and he ends up kissing the girl. And then when she, clearly indicates that she's ready to escalate, he just shakes his head.
I'm going to go smoke.
Does the right thing. There was a brief moment.
And those two are made for each other because Mia is not sure she wants to do what Lucia does anyway. And so, I think she was fine with that. She's like, oh, okay, good.
Although there was the brief moment with Mia as well, where after being offered money to be a prostitute by the piano playing guy, he hits her just with a different type of prostitution. He frames the exact same bargain.
He's like, oh, you don't want to be paid in money. You want to be paid in opportunity. I understand.
And this time she says, I'll think about it. But there was one brief moment that caused a bit of an uproar on the hot new social network, the text threads between Tom, Brian, and Bryce.
Okay, yeah.
You can actually see the clip in question on Twitter. I illegally recorded the television. But
and me texting Red Ripple to you.
Yes, exactly. But the brief moment when dude slips down underwater, there is what looked to my eyes to be an intentional morphing effect of making a skull shape out of his face. That you could see the crossfade on the upper lip on there. There's no question in my mind that is possibly a reference specifically to The Exorcist, but just a flash of a death face, because they have established that they don't mind hitting you with a creepy minor key note to remind you somebody's going to die. And when I saw that, I was like, what? Is that a skull? But nobody believes me.
I believe you see that.
I believe.
I see what you see. And I know that Mike White loves to make a reference So, but I can't tell for sure if it's just our imagination or if it's really there.
Teach the debate, people.
I think it's just because he's literally underwater. He's close to the surface where all the refraction is. The light is fading out, and also like you had the brightness turned way up. Like when we looked at this in real time.
Oh no, I believe it's very, very subtle, but also everything about this program has indicated to me that they're the kind of people to give excruciating attention to detail. Like, for example, a brief 5 or 6 frames of a creepy face.
Then what does that subtext tell you about the show?
Well,
what does that inform you about the show then? I agree. There's a school. Okay, there's a school. What does the school? What does it mean?
It means either I'm being tricked or they're foreshadowing. So it doesn't really give me anything. I just like noticing production things.
Ethan gonna die. That's what that means.
That's certainly what it seemed like they were sending a press release of is a hint that in retrospect you would notice.
Also, that we have the little subplot of Portia not being excited enough by Albie, and sort of giving him the brush off because he's too awkward in his advances.
We have to watch out for Albie. We have not. Albie's father, we know he's got problems. Albie's grandfather, we know he's not exactly Mr. PC. We have not seen Albie pushed yet. Albie is really trying to be steady. He's really trying to be, hey, I'm the calm waters. I'm doing everything right. I'm going to court you, Madam Portia, which Portia doesn't want at all.
Oh, you want me to be more aggressive? Then you have to come with us on our special trip to the Godfather's set.
Allow
That's
me
his
to
version
forcefully smooch you without permission.
Like she goes to the point of like, well, I don't ever think you could ever make me uncomfortable. And he finds a way with these social expectations, you know, it's
but it's the wrong kind of uncomfortable.
Yeah, it is.
Right. She wants someone with confidence to cut, like that guy, Mr. Abs swimming over there during that scene. Right.
Yeah.
To come up and just be like, hey baby, let's take a walk. And that's not what Albie's doing. He's not getting the message. And it's causing her to be like, nah, I don't think so.
And I think she probably at this moment or at the end of the episode is done. Hey, if I don't talk to him again, you know what? We tried. And I know he's not going to do that. I think he's
going to become obsessive.
What we saw in season 1 was for more and more temperature, the temperature rising for everybody. And he's someone who hasn't been pushed yet. He's going to get pushed, and I'm presuming that it's going to tie into the stuff with his father. Like none of these guys know how to talk around women in 2022, maybe. And Albie's just got his own version of it.
Yeah, I feel like Portia thinks, you know, there just isn't a spark here. He's a nice enough guy, but I think I've made myself clear, and I got options. If it's not Ab's guy, it's somebody else. So, you know what? We'll just temper it from here. And I don't think Albie got that message.
Yes. And per, I don't know, 10,000 years of honor culture of all varieties, boy, do men not like being scorned in an embarrassing way? Do men do bonkers things when they feel rejected and dejected?
Yeah.
And women scorned, for men scorned way worse.
And
it's not a contest, Tom.
And they're out of the country, and I'm sure it seems like Albie's, pretty well off. I mean, they're at the 5-star resort. He's Portia clearly is not supposed to be there the way Albie does fit in there. This is interesting. And I mentioned this in the first episode, but I'm really glad Portia is not a very homely sort of character. I like that they have really given her some actualization. Like she knows what she wants. She's got power to make control of her life, and she is empowered. She doesn't need Albie. There's a lot of hot guys, and she's good looking. And I'm glad that this show doesn't just say she's got curly hair, so she's the ugly one.
I see. Yeah. No, it's good. Good point.
She'd be so pretty if she just took off her glasses. That
it's like the 30 Rock thing, right? Like Liz Lemon's supposed to be this ugly character, and Tina Fey is
gorgeous,
very traditionally attractive.
Yeah. No, exactly. Yeah. All right. Any other thoughts on the White Lotus?
Question, do I need to hustle up and watch all of season 1 all at once? This is the first episode I slipped behind because I knew we definitely needed to watch episode 3 of season 2, but I wasn't able to compare it to episode 3 of season 1, and I'm wondering if that experiment holds up to scrutiny. Should I just binge it?
I don't know. How did you like the episodes of season 1 that you saw?
Yeah, they were as good as season 2.
And go watch it.
But they're long. I'm just breaking from the promise that I made at the beginning as well.
It's gonna be longer than watching one a week.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Tom?
Yeah. I don't know. I don't think it's necessary is all I would say.
Yeah.
Okay.
Might inform a little bit of Jennifer Coolidge's character, a little bit, but even then, I don't think it's necessary.
Oh, you're gonna miss the good BLM joke too. Oh, it's a good joke.
I mean, I'll watch it.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Add it to the pile, people.
That is The White Lotus, season 2, episode 3. Let's talk Miami Vice, season 3, episode 20, which not only stars Melanie Griffith, but also George Takei as the gangster warlord in charge of it all behind the scenes.
Yeah, I know that in the doc it mentioned Melanie Griffith was unexpected Sulu attack, literally. Also, Captain Lou Albano just showed up like, oh my God. Also, a decent little magic trick they did, throwing a dummy off the side of the building in the first 30 seconds, followed by, and then so they throw the dummy off the building. It thuds next to the Corvette
behind
that
the
Crockett
car.
and Tubbs are in. They look at each other, 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, and then camera pans over to show human lying where dummy was. And now it occurs to me, so first of all, that's a classic moving one-shot camera thing, magic trick. Now it occurs to me that Switek is reading a book of magic tricks that exposes like a fundamental gimmick in magic that is in every kid's booth, that magicians won't even say the name of the gimmick out loud. He's reading a book of it right there.
And the book has the name of the gimmick on the cover, right?
Yes. Isn't that like that can't be a coincidence that they did a little magic trick at the beginning and then had him reading a book of magic tricks?
Yeah. You would know better than me. That all fits, and I didn't think of any of that. That's amazing.
As a proficient expert in noticing when magic is mentioned in any kind of pop culture and with how much reverence they give it, I will say that was fairly unusual in the 1980s for it to be a non-magic related episode, do a magic thing, a magic-ish thing. I mean, theoretically, storytelling-wise,
Switek reading that,
he died.
Yeah,
but
interesting. So some other appearances in here. Vanity, a model as Ali Farrand, this sort of MacGuffin character that they're all after, and Veronica Cartwright. I don't know how many people know her, but she's been in a lot of things over the years. It was the society dame that they talked to at one point.
I didn't recognize any of those, but knowing that this was a guest star feature bit maybe gives a little more context for the prolonged murder scene. This was a little more graphic than we've the camera shows Lou Albano straining with his hands, and then it pans out just enough to see him pull away his hands from her neck, and that all felt awkward. There was a lot of this episode that felt a little bit silly to me, up to and including, the classic thing they do on puff pieces where somebody corners them and says, "You're a madam of a prostitute ring."
Why was she
to businesswoman of the year without any evidence? Just no evidence at all. He has nothing to show.
We've done an investigation, and it turns out
who does an interview, a live remote? No one does a live remote interview. No one does that. Like she was encouraging it. It has to be live because why would she have told Crockett about it? She would have gone and done it during the day when the sun is out and known that happened. What?
The only way that's live is if it's the morning show, right? If those are the only shows that are live, right? The live local morning show might have had her in studio live, not out there. But they wanted it to be in the middle of the day, and they wanted it to be outside.
Things that are expensive, faking a news TV set for that kind of interview. Things that are cheap, having the bay in the background.
Also, you know what the live local morning news usually doesn't do? Bring someone on as businesswoman to accuse
Confront
them
her.
of being a madam. Yeah.
Like, what is the point of that segment? To just hang her out to dry?
The point of that segment is to expose her connection in front of the world so that Crockett and everyone can't escape from it.
You know what?
Why didn't they go to the cops?
It actually, the scene was so strange, it made me think of an equally strange scene. Forgive me, just 20 seconds here. I don't know if you ever saw the 1980s Dragnet movie with Dan Aykroyd and Tom Hanks, but there's this weird scene where Tom Hanks just magically has a watch that shows television on it. And I'm like, well, that didn't exist. It was flat out not a thing. And maybe you could say it was just around the corner and he just, like, they're driving and he's pouting and he's like, I'm just watching my watch. I'm just watching and it's some like, the news is in, bad guy is right over here. And I was like, why did they do that? And I'm like, oh, because they had to convey that the cops were just around the corner and they needed this plot point to get out. And is it a phone call or is it whatever? No, they don't have backup. So maybe he just hears about it. Radio, not. Anyway, it felt like that. It felt like they needed to get it out. And they're all like, whatever, we'll just have it be on the news. He sees it.
Well, you know, what's funny is the amount of car phones in these episodes, in no direct relation to how frequent car phones were actually in use back then. It's basically not, could this person plausibly have afforded a car phone, which was expensive and a luxury, but do we need them to make a call in this scene? And we don't want to have them on a payphone. Yes, everybody gets a car phone.
We do have that moment where the boudoir photographer is that one dude that we ain't seen in a while, that we don't see often enough for me to remember his name.
Izzy, yeah.
Izzy, the comic relief. And in order to convey how low status he is, they go to pick up the phone. He's like, it doesn't work. And it's like, you have to use the payphone, but I rigged it so that you don't have to pay money. So they keep knocking down his status.
There is that. No, that's a good point. Yeah. There's a bit of status there. Not the strongest plot, but certainly made it up in stardom.
I'll tell you this much. There was one moment near the end, I'm like, okay, what are you doing, Miami Vice? Can you not acknowledge? And then Don Johnson says, a junkie and a madam. A junkie and a hooker. Do I know how to pick them? I was like, well, thank goodness you at least acknowledged that you were about to marry a doctor who turned out to be addicted to heroin. And now you're suddenly in love with Businesswoman of the Year, who's secretly a madam.
These episodes would have happened within only a couple of months of each other.
2 weeks, I think.
Yep.
I think we're only a few weeks away.
Well, this is episode 20, and that one would have been episode, 10 or 12?
Oh, I thought it was 316 that it was, but
well, that would be a month and a half. I mean, it would be in this season.
Pretty close.
Yeah.
Also, I think we discovered this in After Talk last week, but Melanie Griffith and Don Johnson were married twice, but not married during this episode. However, their second marriage starts not long after this episode.
That was also a pretty steamy sex scene for
two of them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
or two bed scenes.
A lot of definite naked back action.
Yeah.
One
presumes that they were okay with that scene.
Presumably. God, I hope so, Tom.
Boy, wouldn't that be some Squid Game stuff? I'm sorry, Don. I'm sorry, Melanie.
I was trying to say they get married not long after this, so they're probably dating.
You're going to get in the bed, and then you're going to get married in a year.
I want standards and practices.
I'm Captain Lou Albano. I'm here to enforce it.
All right. Anything else on Miami Vice 320?
I just can't get over that news scene. So anyway, what do you say about it?
Our research indicates
he had this leering grin on his face as he was saying it.
I gotcha. Yeah. Sorry, Crockett.
I will say the one thing I've noticed as I've looked into little Miami Vice facts is I've noticed that people call the show cynical. And as I'm watching the episodes, I feel like I see it, right? Like, we get a lot of episodes with bad endings and the wrong people dying and the innocent people not making it through. I think that the grittiness, I feel like having watched this so far, I feel like some of the grittiness that they're putting in the show is earned and authentic. Simply just because they are writing scripts that are not perfect. We save the day every time, or any time really.
It's that juxtaposition, of you said the color style guide was everything had to be teal and pink, and no earth tones were allowed. That buys you some space to tell truly awful, destroyed, dead inside human stories.
I thought of that when I saw that really weird Mercedes limo in the beginning of the show. Did you guys see the big weird white limo?
No.
It didn't look like a normal
I didn't notice it.
Stage car. Like it was Mercedes, and it was big and boxy in a way that limos probably wouldn't have even looked back then. I would feel like.
Like an old-fashioned Mercedes limo because it's so boxy, or
yeah, something. Oh, maybe I've got a picture here, but
that's pretty close.
It was pretty close, but it was just interesting seeing it because they had a limo and it was white.
Well, and having the white limo allows you to reflect on the neon. Boy, the effort that goes into just the set pieces, knowing that the entire facade of this building is crafted just for this 10 seconds that they walk by it is very old-fashioned Hollywoody.
That is.
And did you see the guy who can't pull out his billfold? And then they use that anyway because when Switek did that a couple episodes back.
Oh yeah.
That is Miami Vice season 3, episode 20. Next time on Spoilerin Time, if you'd like to talk along with us, be sure to watch The White Lotus season 2, episode 4, 2521, season 1, episode 3, and Rick and Morty season 6, episode 7. That's right. Rick and Morty coming back on Sunday. We will be talking about all those next time. Thanks everybody for watching. We'll spoil you then.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.